Hey, Fat Loss Blueprinters, it is Coach Lori here, and I just thought I would pop on and show those of you who are doing Bright Line eating, or really anyone who just wants to have some food volume measurements attached to your protein foods handy. I'm going to show you guys how to use the calculator. So I'm having to do this through my phone because that's how you Facebook Live. So I'm going to show my computer screen through my phone and hopefully it translates. But I'm going to walk you all through where to find the calculator, how to use the calculator, and then how to translate that to your Bright Line Eating food plan. And this isn't just for Bright Line Eating people. Really anyone who wants to know, like, how am I going to get this much protein in each of my meals, and you feel a little more comfortable measuring that food forever or at first, right, just to get a handle on it, you will benefit from this video. So I'm going to turn it around, and hopefully it will show my computer. Okay, so I am in the Fat Loss Blueprint Facebook group. So if you're on a computer screen, where you go is the Files section over here. If you're on a phone, it's going to look differently. There's going to be icons across the top here, and then a little arrow that will let you like sort of scroll through those icons. Up here will be the Files tab. So you just have to scroll over until you find it. Okay, so wherever your Files tab is, go to Files. And if you'll look through here in the Files, there's one or two that you're going to need. If you are Bright Line Eating, I would use both of these, the protein calculator and the meal plan. If you're not Bright Line Eating and you just want to see how your protein numbers translate to volume or measurements that you can measure before you eat the food, you'll just use the protein calculator. So open the protein calculator first. You just click on it. Use version 2. I don't know how to remove the first version, but version 2 is the most updated version, and now it's like not even letting me see which one it is. Alright, so I just clicked on it. I'm opening it. Let's see which one this is. The updated one will have soy in it. That's how you know. It'll have soy products in it. Yeah, and it'll have instructions over here. So this is the updated version. First of all, you want to click Enable Editing if this pops up for you. So go ahead and click that. What you'll notice is over here, this is a weight and a protein grams per kilogram. This is my weight and my protein grams per kilogram. I highlighted them yellow so you know to put in your weight and your protein grams per kilogram. So let's say your weight is like 210. You would put that in there. Now watch when I hit enter, all of these things changed, right? And we'll get there in a second. Now your grams per kilogram of protein, this is going to be obtained from going through the lessons in the Fat Loss Blueprint. Okay, this is from Alex's instructions on the ranges of protein in grams per kilograms that you want to get, and it's going to vary based upon your weight. Are you still in weight loss? Are you in maintenance weight? Are you super active? Are you not? Etc. So this is the grams per kilogram protein I'm using, but the weight loss grams per kilogram range is 1.2 to 1.5, and you're going to pick somewhere in that range based upon your goals there. So let's say you're 210 and your grams per kilogram is actually 1.3. So you put that in, okay? You type that in. And over here, it'll automatically, you don't have to do any math. This is the amount of protein in grams you want to get each day, and this is the amount in protein in grams you want to get in each meal, okay? So you just keep doing this until you get to your weight goal. So even if you go from 210 to 180 to 170, you don't come in here and change this, okay? You might come in here and change your grams per kilogram, like let's say if you get way more active and you want to increase this, you could come in there and recalculate it. But the way you then use the calculator is you come down here and it'll tell you, and these are all foods listed in Brightline Eating, right? Versus instead of like 3 ounces of protein versus 6 ounces of animal protein, well, that's not going to translate to actual protein grams in that food. So now that you know you need 40-ish grams of protein per meal, this is going to tell you, oh, well, you need 40 grams of protein per meal. So if you get that from animal protein, you need 5 ounces of animal protein. So notice if you stuck to that 3 ounces from BLE, you would be under your protein. But if you went all the way up to 6 ounces, you would be overdoing it, right? So you don't need to just like do the male amount of protein willy-nilly or just double it willy-nilly. This calculates and tells you exactly how much to do, okay? Versus if you got it in eggs, you need like 6.5 or 7 eggs, etc. So first of all, one thing I want to say here is I kept this to the 2 decimals because this is like 2 3/4 cups, right? Well, that's less than 3 and that's more than 2. I didn't just want to round to the whole number because I wanted to make sure you're getting as accurate as amount of protein as possible. What you can do is print this page and then mark these off and round these to make it more convenient for you, for that automaticity for you to memorize it, right? You can also, so notice these are in, not everything's in ounces, and that's because this was the easiest way to ensure you got the actual adequate amount of protein from these foods. But let's say you get most of your protein from these soy products and this is in cups. Well, what I would just do the first time is, let's say you use tempeh and you get 1 1/4 cups of tempeh cooked. The first time you do it, put that tempeh, put 1 1/4 cups of tempeh on the scale, measure it in ounces, and then cross this off and say, oh, that's like 4 ounces of tempeh. And then you know that. So you really just need to convert the ones you actually use as protein here into ounces. Or you can just, the automaticity is going to get there. You can just measure these in cups or tablespoons or whatever. Do it however you want to do it. Because remember, the important part of the quantities line in Brightline Eating is not that it's in ounces versus cups. It's that it's measured, right? And you stick to that measurement. The benefit of the ounces is it prevents you from going over a little bit. Versus if you do a cup, well, you could get a heaping cup to like support this sort of binge mentality. Well, if you have that binge mentality still, sure, convert all of these to ounces. But if measuring a cup is just measuring a cup for you and you realize there's a little bit of wiggle room with this protein amount up here, right? Because you didn't go all the way up to 1.5 or whatever, then don't worry about converting it to ounces. So you convert whichever ones to ounces you want to, just the very first time you cook these foods. And then you cross it off and do that as you wish. The other thing I want you to notice, and people keep commenting on this, is you're like, oh my gosh, I need 10 cups of rice if I'm using it as a grain. No, this is if you're using potatoes as your protein, you would need 10 cups. If you're using oatmeal as your protein, you would need 6 3/4 or 7 cups. If you're using nut butter as your protein, you need 16 tablespoons, right? So this is showing you really these higher volumes are showing you these aren't really great sources of protein versus even soy milk, right? Look at that. Versus the ones that are lower in volume, those are the ones you're getting more protein per ounce of food, right? Per gram of food. They're higher in protein, and so you're going to get more protein for fewer calories by choosing those. But again, this spreadsheet lets you, choose whichever ones you want. And another cool thing about this spreadsheet is it calculates 3/4 of a serving, half a serving, 1/4 of a serving if you want to mix and match. So let's say I don't want to eat 7 eggs, right? Let's say I want to eat about 3 eggs. Well, that's like half a serving, which means I would need another half a serving of protein. So I could get 2.5 ounces of animal protein and then 3 eggs, and that would give me my protein for that meal, right? This little chart lets you mix and match. So if you want 3/4 of something, add 1/4 of something else. If you want half of something, add a half serving of something else. So this does all the math for you. So this is where you start with your protein. And for those of you who are not Brightline eaters, and this allows you to just get your protein per meal, and you want to measure this at first just to make sure you're getting enough protein, totally feel free to use it. This isn't just for Brightline eaters, right? But just make sure you type in your weight and your gram per kilogram goal. Don't use mine. And then you can save this to your computer. That way you have it for yourself. You can screenshot this and print it. That way you can mark off stuff, etc. So once you have this and you know the protein amounts that you're going for, then head back into the Facebook group, head back into files. And if you're a Brightline eater, here's the meal plan, sort of adjustments that I've gone through. Now let me first say, this is just the way I've integrated Brightline eating with the fat loss blueprint. You don't have to integrate it this way, but this incorporated the most of the food recommendations from the fat loss blueprint while still maintaining the Brightline eating, like measurement, plan, writing out your food per day kind of mentality. And you'll notice on here, the first page is instructions, so please read those first, okay? And step 1 is use the protein calculator to get your protein. Once you get your protein, that calculator is the 1 protein serving per day. So when I come down here to the food plan and it says 1 protein, that doesn't mean BLE 3 ounces of protein or 6 ounces of protein. This is your protein from the protein calculator. So this person, that was 210 pounds, and by the way, the weight is in pounds, right? And they were aiming for 1.3 grams per kilogram of protein per day. Their protein is this. This is their 1 protein, right? And so that's what that means on this page. Your 1 protein is unique to you. Then the next thing you want to do is experiment with the other Brightline eating food groups. So how many servings of veggies, how many servings of fruit, how many fats, and how many grains. This is totally going to vary based upon your NEAT, your flux, your age, your weight loss goals, etc. Right? This is going to be completely unique. And it may depend on your cycle. All of this stuff is taught in the Fat Loss Blueprint lessons. So you need to be listening to those lessons to understand how then to play around with these other food groups. If you need to increase a food group, increase veggies first. So you can replace a grain with a serving of 6 ounces of veggies. You can replace a fat with a serving of 6 ounces of veggies. You can replace a fruit with a serving of 6 ounces of veggies. Or you can just add 6 ounces of veggies, right? Like you can add veggie servings. Then add fruit servings. And then if you're still hungry, you're still losing weight too fast, there's still something going on there, then add fats or grains based upon step 3. And all of this training in step 3 comes from the lessons in the Fat Loss Blueprint. So I'm really walking through this to show you, don't just skip here, right? Read through these things and follow these instructions. Now, the food plan I'm about to show you is what I do. And I'm at 155 pounds. I'm about 10 to 15 pounds from goal weight. I get around 20 to 30,000 steps per day. And I do 1 to 2 hours of pretty intense working out each day plus resistance training. And so what I'm about to show you is based on that. So know if there's differences here, that's going to matter, right? And you're going to want to increase or decrease your fat, grains, and veggies and fruit depending on that. But you want your protein to always be based on that protein calculator. And so your 1 protein, again, comes from your protein calculator. You're going to use that for each meal. And then you want to make sure in any meals with fats that your fruit is a berry, if you're having fruit, and you'll know why from the Fat Loss Blueprint lesson plans, that recommendation comes from merging and integrating the Fat Loss Blueprint with Bright Line Eating. And so I do 1 to 2 BLE servings, or 6 to 12 ounces of veggies each meal. If I have fat, I do 1 to 2 fats per meal, just based on my activity for that day and my cycle. And if I do have fat, I do a serving of fruit, but it's always berries if there's fat. Versus I do 1 grain at night, depending upon my cycle and my activity levels for that day. And if I do have grains, that's where my fruit will be a non-berry fruit if I want it to be. In general, I just eat berries anyway, but that's just me. So as I start to lose weight, or if I got more active and I wanted to add some food based on my hunger levels, I would first go up to 18 ounces of veggies, 18 ounces of veggies, 18 ounces of veggies. Then I would add fruit. Then I would play around with adding some fats. So again, this is just to help you think about how to integrate it into your current Bright Line Eating food plan. But you're going to play around with it using these instructions based upon the lessons in the Fat Loss Blueprint. And so those 2 documents, again, they're in the files section here, and that's really where you should start if you want to change up your Bright Line Eating food plan by integrating the information from the Fat Loss Blueprint. But again, as Ari has said multiple times, you don't have to do that. There are tons of other lifestyle recommendations in the Fat Loss Blueprint that you can start with first if you're worried about changing your food plan. But Ari also mentioned in one of the Q&As, and I loved how he said this, playing around with these foods and figuring out what works for you is completely, totally in line. He didn't say this part, I'm saying this part. Is completely, totally in line with Bright Line Eating. Susan says over and over and over, find the plan that works for you. Right? Find the plan that's going to work for you and your goals. What Ari did say is that playing around with fruits or proteins or fats or grains is not like playing around with sugar and flour or cheat days, right? That is not what integrating Fat Loss Blueprint into your BLE food plan is doing. No one's recommending that. So this is not asking you to risk your lines or cross your lines at all, right? These are just recommendations on how to change up your food plan that you then stick to again, right? You still commit to that automaticity, but it's going to help you get over those plateaus. It's going to help support maintaining muscle and losing fat while you're still doing your food freedom, right? You want that mental food freedom by following the Bright Line Eating plans as well. So after y'all watch this, go ahead and put questions in the chat and tag me in the post under the video, and tag me so I see your questions. And if you see anyone else struggling in the group with like, where do I start? What do I do? If you could tag them on this video, because this live video will be in here now, if you can tag them, that way we can all just kind of support each other and guide each other on how to get started, that would be awesome. Or you can tag me and, have them, I can tag them. So anyway, let's help each other and rock this food freedom and fat loss blueprint information together. All right, thanks y'all.